In a foggy city, three strangers were stopped by a large object blocking their path. None of them could see it clearly, they could only feel it with their hands and believe with their hearts. One claimed it was a wall. Another was sure it was a car. The third swore it was a bush. They began to argue, each one clinging tightly to their own truth. But what is the truth? And why does it matter now more than ever to you? In a fog-drenched city where streetlights blur like faded memories and car horns echo like distant reminders, three strangers found themselves stopped by an object blocking their path. No one could see it clearly. There was no light. Only cold air, pounding hearts, and hands groping through the darkness. The first was Alex, a businessman who believed in logic. He reached forward and touched a flat, cold surface. "It's a wall," he declared firmly. "We can't go any further. We need to turn back and find another way." To him, anything that couldn't be overcome had to be avoided. Time is money, after all. Next was Maya, an artist guided by intuition. Her hand traced a smooth, curved shape with the scent of aged metal. "It's not a wall," she said. "It's a car. Someone's parked here. We wait, they'll leave eventually." She was used to waiting for inspiration, for momentum, for the world to move on its own. Then came David, a pragmatic engineer. He stepped to the other side and felt something sharp scratch his fingers. Thorns? Branches? He frowned. "It's not a car. Not a wall. It's a bush. We're off course. We need to turn back." To him, any deviation from the blueprint was an error that needed fixing, fast. Three people. Three perspectives. Three truths. None of them were wrong. But none of them were completely right either. In the dark, they began to argue. Voices sharpened. Each insisted they saw most clearly, understood best. Each believed they had touched the truth. The rest? Just mistakes. And maybe that's how many of us stumble through foggy days, believing in what we know, and distrusting anything that feels unfamiliar. But what happens when fragments of truth collide? When we can't see the full picture, yet act as if we do? When sincere belief, no matter how honest, becomes a barrier? What blocked their path wasn't a wall, or a car, or a bush. But in that moment, wrapped in fog and certainty, they could see nothing beyond their own point of view. And maybe you've been there too, facing a problem, a decision, a conflict, and only seeing one part of it. Maybe you've thought there was no way forward, when all you really needed was a different perspective. But how do we begin to see what we've never seen before? Tension kept rising. No one would back down. Each Alex, Maya, David held tightly to the truth they believed, as if letting go would mean losing all sense of direction. Alex crossed his arms, eyes cold as he stared at Maya. "If you think it's a car, then listen for the engine. Do you hear anything?" "No. It's a wall, and we're wasting time." Maya shot back, Just because it's silent doesn't mean it's not a car. Maybe someone turned off the engine and left. You're always in such a rush, you never give anything time to reveal itself. David cut in sharply, "You're both wrong. I felt thorns, tangled branches. It's not a wall. It's not a car. We're going the wrong way. Stop being so stubborn. 3 people. 3 attitudes. Logic, intuition, and precision. And none of them were listening anymore. What started as a simple story, a blocked path, was quickly becoming a symbol of something deeper, how humans deal with difference. Each reacted in their familiar patterns. Alex wanted control. Maya sought emotional understanding. David aimed to fix and correct. They weren't just disagreeing about what lay before them, they were revealing the contradictions in how they saw the world. And the saddest part? As is so often the case, when disagreement arises, people don't step back to understand. They step forward to win. The argument was no longer about truth. It was about ego. Each sentence wasn't a step toward resolution, it was a declaration. I'm right, and you're wrong. Sound familiar? How many times in life have you found yourself trapped in a conversation where no one was really listening? Have you ever interrupted someone not to understand them, but to make your point louder? Have you ever been in a relationship where you saw a wall and the other person saw a car and neither of you would budge? In that cold mist, they weren't just facing a physical obstacle. They were confronting a barrier in perception, in deeply held beliefs. And the real danger wasn't that they couldn't see the path. It was that they didn't realize how blind they had become. What they needed in that moment wasn't a map. It was a mirror to see themselves in this standoff. And then, just as the air grew heaviest with tension, something none of them expected happened. As the air thickened with tension, a soft sound broke through steady footsteps on the damp pavement. From within the fog, a man emerged. No one knew where he came from. His demeanor was calm, as if the surrounding haze had no hold on his pace. His athletic jacket was soaked with mist. Earphones dangled loosely around his neck. Clearly, a jogger. But his eyes held something deeper, the look of someone who had once been lost and had learned how to keep going. He stopped before the 3 strangers, now standing in a crescent around the obstacle. He looked at them, then at the wall that stood between them. "You all okay?" he asked, his voice as gentle as the breeze. Alex sighed. "No. We've hit a wall." Maya shook her head. "It's a car." David pointed. "It's a bush. A mess." The jogger smiled, not disagreeing with any of them. He stepped closer, touched the object briefly, then took a step back. "Interesting," he said. 3 people, 3 answers, yet no one stepped back to consider the question. Silence. He didn't lecture. He didn't argue. He simply asked, "What if you're each partly right?" What if this thing feels hard like a wall, cold like metal, tangled like dry branches? Then what is it? No one replied. But for the first time since it all began, the silence wasn't a dead end, it was reflection. "Touch it again," he said softly. "This time, not to win, but to share." Alex stepped forward, placing his hand on the rough, solid surface. Maya touched the smooth curve beside it. David explored the sharp twigs and uneven texture. Each began to describe what they felt, not to prove the others wrong, but with curiosity. Then something shifted. As they listened, truly listened, without interrupting, the picture started to form. What once seemed contradictory began to make sense. The fragments began to fit together. "It's a tree trunk," Maya said suddenly, eyes wide. "Fallen across the path," David added. Alex nodded. "And it's not immovable. If we all push." This time, their hands reached not for argument, but for action. The jogger stepped back, smiling as he watched. In moments, the trunk was moved aside. The path that once seemed hopelessly blocked was now open, not because of one person's strength, but because of shared understanding. The greatest obstacle, it turned out, wasn't the fallen tree. It was how they saw it. The path was no longer blocked. The fallen tree, once a wall, a car, a tangle of brush in the minds of three strangers, now lay quietly at the edge of the road. But they didn't move forward right away. The three stood still, silent, as if seeing themselves clearly for the first time in a long while. Maya spoke first. "It's strange, we argued so much about what we thought was true, we forgot to ask the more important question. What might I not know?" David nodded, his hands still marked with scratches from the thorns. "I was so certain I was right, I didn't even bother listening to either of you. But the truth is, I only touched part of it." Alex looked down at the tree they just moved, then at the two beside him. "I've always believed logic would give me the answers. But this time, the answer only came when I stopped and listened to things that didn't fit into my logic." The shift hadn't happened in the object before them. It had happened within them. Before this moment, each had been living inside their own box, built from experience, belief, and fear. None of them were wrong. They were simply limited by the perspectives they trusted too much. And just like in life, the thing that holds us back is often not what's out there, but our refusal to step beyond our own slice of the truth. We meet challenges and give them names shaped by fear. We see a wall and give up. We see a car and wait for it to move. We see brush and turn back. Rarely do we think to take a step back and wonder what we've yet to see. They were no longer strangers. They had shared something no book could teach, no search engine could answer, and no personal success could guarantee. Sometimes, collaboration isn't an option. It's the only way to see a truth bigger than ourselves. The jogger was gone. no farewell, no lingering. Maybe he knew his role was done. The rest, they could walk on their own. Alex looked at his two new companions and said softly, "I think I'm ready to move forward. But not alone this time." "Not to win," Maya added, "but to understand." "Not just to see," David finished, "but to see the whole picture." They were no longer three lost souls. They were a team, three perspectives, three strengths, and one shared lesson. They turned away from the fallen tree and walked on, into the fog that still hung thick. But this time, with a new kind of clarity within. The fog remained thick. The road ahead still unclear. But the steps of the three were different now. No more tension. No more doubt. Only a deep silence, the kind that comes from within. When the mind has opened and the heart no longer feels alone. They didn't need to say much. Each was lost in their own thoughts. Alex thought back to all the times at work he dismissed a teammate's idea just because it didn't fit his logic. Maya remembered relationships that fell apart simply because she believed her emotions were the absolute truth. David, who had always believed that every problem had a technical solution, now realized some things can only be solved with empathy and conversation. Today's obstacle wouldn't be the last. But for the first time, they felt equipped to face what lay ahead. Not with strength. Not with knowledge. But with the ability to step back, listen, and see the bigger picture together. And what about you? Maybe in your own life right now, there's a fallen tree blocking your path. A conflict at work. A dream that feels impossible. Or a relationship that feels stuck and unreachable. Try stopping for a moment and ask yourself, what part of this problem am I touching? Am I seeing a wall just because I haven't seen the other side yet? Is someone near me holding the piece I'm missing? We're often afraid to admit we don't see the whole picture. But it's in that honest, courageous moment, the moment we let go of the need to be right, that real change begins. Truth doesn't live in your hands alone. It lives in the conversations you're brave enough to have, in the people you're willing to listen to, and in the moment you lower your guard and turn toward shared understanding. The three in the story didn't move forward because they were smarter. They moved forward because they became humbler. Because they accepted. No one was entirely right. And no one was entirely wrong. And maybe that's the very first step to clearing the path in your own life. So if you find yourself walking through the fog, with questions unanswered, dreams unfinished, or relationships in limbo, remember, you might just be holding one part of the tree. Backhand index pointing down. Share your thoughts in the comments below. What obstacle are you facing in life right now? And what perspective have you never stepped back far enough to see? If you want to keep exploring, growing, and awakening your own clarity, Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the bell for updates. This is Dare BraveSpark channel. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time.